One of the thing I hear about since I'm in PI, I mean, I hear about a lot of other horror stories where firm owner hires an associate, they assign cases to the associate, and it doesn't have to just be PI, but you see a lot in PI where associate leaves, takes a bunch of the clients, and then wants to screw the owner over when it comes to the fees. Are there any protections you can put in place, either from a retainer agreement with the client perspective, or from some sort of employment agreement where you can help protect yourself as a firm owner?
Absolutely.
I want to hear about these. I think this is something that people would love to hear about.
And if you're a PI firm owner, this is 100%, you have to do it. If you hire any kind of attorney, whether it's of counsel, contract, partner, put in the partnership agreement, or an associate, for sure. As everybody knows, you can't really have non-competes or non-solicits with lawyers. Clients always get to choose. And so if an attorney leaves, they have a right to sort of go to the client and say, hey, do you want to come with me? But with all that in place, if you set up your agreements the right way, at a minimum, you will protect your downside. And I have I have a variety of these agreements that I've done for firms, and it's sort of on a spectrum of really aggressive to maybe less aggressive. And I've had situations where we've rolled them out at a firm, and the associates they get scared. I'll just say they sort of lose their mind a little bit. And so there's some educating and sort of some things you got to do. But the funny thing is fast forward some years later, I've had some of those associates who've later left and started their own firm. When they're hiring associates, they come back and say, I remember that. I want one of those too.
Damn right.
So, in my view, it's you're just trying to be fair. This is not about being unfair from an owner's perspective. I know a lot of associates would think, hey, this is not fair. But, the owner has put a lot at risk. They spent a lot of money to get these cases. They've trained up these people. And it might be one of the biggest fears of any personal injury firm owner. And it puts you in a weird spot because most people want to grow. But if you don't delegate to other attorneys, it really hampers your ability to grow. So at some point, you're going to have to be able to do it. And so absolutely put these in place. We can go through some of the strategies.
I want to hear about, what are some of the strategies? And you don't have to give me your best stuff, but what are some good ways of what are some of the strategies?
Well, certainly, you want to put a fee split, sort of agreed upon fee split in place if they leave. Now, I've seen some where someone sort of self-drafted it, and I'll look at it, and it says, if you leave, you are prohibited from taking clients. That's not enforceable. It may feel good, but it's not enforceable. It may say, if you leave and take clients, 100% of the fees you get from those clients, you got to pay us. That's not going to be enforceable either. And so there are cases around the country, and it differs a little bit per jurisdiction, but if you go too high on the percentage split that has to be paid back to the firm, courts will say that's a financial penalty. It's the same as a non-compete, so we're not going to enforce it. So there is a range above which, if you get it, it's probably going to get thrown out. The way I like to do it is to create sort of a schedule. And so it's not on a per case basis, but it's really, or not on a blanket for all the cases, but it's on a case by case basis, depending on there's a couple ways you can go at it, but you're attempting to approximate the amount of work that was done at the firm versus after the firm. So you could sort of set the benchmarks or the schedule by procedural posture of a case, by time that the case has been at the firm. There's different ways you can go at it, but the fee splits, you got to have that in place at the beginning, and that sets your sort of bottom, worst day, I think. Now, and I can ramble on about this forever, but most states have the ethics rule about fee splits, and you have to disclose to the client and all that kind of stuff. when it's dealing with attorneys that used to be at the same firm that are now separating, you don't have to go through that process. So you don't have to go to the clients and say, hey, this is what we're doing. You can have a contractual agreement, and as long as it's reasonable and enforceable, the courts will say, yeah, we're gonna go by that. So that's a biggie.
I like the idea of using the procedural posture of the case as opposed to like a time, just because you're kind of incentivizing them to like sit on the case for a while for them to get more money. But if you do the procedural posture, like they've got to do something on the case. They can't just, unless you made it just like filing a lawsuit or something like that. But like,
well, it's more about the time that has been at the firm before they take it.
Gotcha.
So if they've been sitting on it at the firm, it's gonna work out for you probably.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. So that makes sense.